My grandma promised me $25,000 in her will. She said, use it to start your life, honey. You've earned it. But when she died, my Uncle Barry took it all. Every penny. So I bought his business for $300,000 and made sure he watched me destroy it, brick by brick. I hope you'll stay with me through this story. If it moves you even a little, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who believes in quiet revenge and justice. I'm Savannah Blake. I'm 26, broke and tired. A few months ago, I lost my job at the design firm after budget cuts. I've been drowning in student loans and picking up odd jobs just to keep the lights on. But through everything, I had one steady light, my grandma, Ruth Blake. Grandma Ruth was more than family. She was my safe place. She raised me when Mom was working double shifts and never let me feel small. Every birthday, every big exam, every heartbreak, I'd find a little note or card from her with the words, "I'm proud of you," she used to say. "When I'm gone, I want you to have $25,000. Use it to breathe, to build something of your own. You deserve that." And I believed her. I held on to those words like a lifeline, because when someone like Grandma Ruth makes a promise, you believe it. Then she passed. She'd been sick for months, quietly fading, but still smiling through the pain. Her funeral felt like a blur. People I hadn't seen in years showed up, including my Uncle Barry. Barry Colton, my mom's older brother. He strutted into the church in his fancy shoes, acting like he was king of the family. Barry runs a heating and air company, Colton Climate Control. Everyone says he's successful, but I always saw the cracks. He never visited Grandma, never called. But there he was at the front row, crying fake tears like he'd just lost the love of his life. After the funeral, I asked my mom about the will. She looked away. That's when I knew something was wrong. "It's all gone," she said, voice shaking. Barry said she signed everything over to him a month before she passed. Said she wanted to simplify the estate. I felt like someone had knocked the air out of my chest. I couldn't believe it. I called the lawyer, asked to see the documents. But everything was sealed and solid. Clean. Legal. Ruth's name had vanished from her own accounts. And mine? I wasn't even mentioned. Barry stole what Grandma promised me. That night, I sat in my apartment, staring at the ceiling. Angry. Numb. Then something shifted. If he thought he won, he had no idea who he was messing with. The day of Grandma Ruth's funeral felt unreal. The sky was gray, like it knew how heavy my heart was. People shuffled in with flowers and quiet faces, but I wasn't looking at them. I was looking for her, for the one person who always made things make sense. And then Barry arrived. He stepped out of a black SUV like he was attending an awards show, not his mother's funeral. Slick suit, fake tears, loud sobs. People nodded at him with sympathy. Some even hugged him. I wanted to scream. He hadn't visited Grandma in months. Not once during her last days. Then I looked at my mom, Diana. She stood like a shadow of herself, eyes dull and shoulders slumped. She didn't cry, didn't speak much. Just kept her hands folded and looked like she wanted to disappear. Later that night, after everyone left, I sat with her in the living room. Grandma's old Afghan still draped over the couch. The house smelled like lavender and memories. I asked Mom about the will again, my voice tight. She broke. Quietly. "Barry, he came over often the last few weeks," she whispered. "Always with papers. Said it was just to help Ruth simplify things. Said it would make everything easier. She was in pain, Savannah. On heavy meds. I think she didn't even know what she was signing." My stomach dropped. "You let him do this?" "I didn't know," she said, tears falling now. "I trusted him. I thought he's her son." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went to Barry's office. Walked straight past his secretary and into his fancy office with leather chairs and a fridge full of sparkling water. He smiled like he was doing me a favor. "I heard you've got questions," he said. I stared at him. "You took what she promised me." He leaned back, shrugged. "There's no proof of that. Just memories, kid. And memories don't hold up in court." I wanted to hit him. Instead, I left and called a lawyer. Paid for a consultation I couldn't afford. But she told me the same thing Mom had hinted at. Ruth had signed everything. It was legal. No signs of coercion, no way to challenge it. Her name was gone from the property, the accounts, the will. Just gone. Barry had won. Unless I played by the rules. He played dirty. Maybe it was time I learned how to play his game. I always thought Barry lived a charmed life. Big house, fancy truck, private fishing trips. But life has a funny way of showing you cracks when you look close enough. One day, while picking up a coffee at the gas station near my apartment, I ran into Reby Morales, an old technician who used to work for Barry at Colton Climate Control. "Savannah? Man, I haven't seen you in years," Reby said, holding a six-pack and a tired look. We got to talking, and before I knew it, he was venting. "That guy? Barry? He's toast," Reby said, shaking his head. "He treats his staff like garbage. I left a month ago, wasn't getting paid on time. Half the crew's already gone. Word is, he's behind on loans and scrambling to keep customers. My heart skipped. It was the first real light I'd seen since Grandma died. Back home, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Barry might have stolen from me, but now he was bleeding money. It wasn't just karma, it was opportunity. I picked up 2 night shifts a week at a 24-hour diner. It barely covered my bills, but it gave me days free to plan. I started reading everything I could about small business law, licensing, acquisitions, loans. I had no background in finance, but I wasn't stupid. I was desperate, and desperation made me sharp. That's when I looped in Marcy Nguyen, my old college roommate and now a junior analyst at a local bank. I told her everything, every detail about Barry, the will, the funeral, Reggie, all of it. She didn't laugh. She didn't doubt. She just said, "Okay, let's take him down." Marcy helped me register a shell company, Sable Ridge Partners, LLC. It sounded official, rich, boring. Just the kind of name a desperate man like Barry would trust. We built a fake online presence. Website, emails, business cards. Marcy even coached me on the lingo investors use. "You're not buying a business," she told me. "You're offering a solution to someone in financial distress." And Barry was very distressed. Over the next few weeks, I had a lawyer friend draw up a simple interest form and non-disclosure agreement. Marcy called in a favor and had a friend pose as our senior advisor on a conference call. I wore a blazer from Goodwill and practiced my pitch in the mirror until my voice stopped shaking. Then we made the call. Barry didn't even hesitate. "Investment, huh?" he said. "Well, maybe it's time I think about selling. Let's talk." He thought I was his escape. He had no idea I was his ending. I walked into that broker's office dressed like someone I'd never been. Heels, sleek ponytail, fake confident. My name wasn't Savannah Blake today. It was Lauren Shaw, silent partner at Sable Ridge Partners, LLC. I brought Marcy with me, dressed sharp and carrying a binder full of legal jargon we barely understood but rehearsed to death. Barry walked in 10 minutes late, wearing a loud sports jacket and his usual smug grin. When he saw me, he barely glanced twice. He looked right at Marcy and shook her hand like she was the only one who mattered. I didn't correct him. Let him think I was just the money. We told him we were looking to invest in small HVAC businesses with local roots. Something long-term, stable, already built. Barry laughed like we were a gift from heaven. "You've come to the right guy," he said. "Colton Climate's been around for 22 years. Solid team. Loyal clients." He didn't mention the debt, the lawsuits from past employees, or the fact that half his vans had been repossessed. He spun it like gold, and I nodded like I believed every word. I let Marcy talk numbers while I sat back like a bored investor. Eventually, Barry threw out his price. $350,000, he said. "For the company, the equipment, everything." I coughed gently, smiled, and said, $300. Cash. Final offer. Barry paused, maybe trying to act tough. But I could see it in his eyes. He needed that money. Probably had collectors breathing down his neck. His jaw twitched. "Fine," he muttered. $300. "But I keep the name Colton Climate." Marcy looked at me like we'd rehearsed. I nodded. Let him keep the name. I didn't want it anyway. I wanted what was inside. A week later, the contracts were signed. Marcy handled the legal work, and the wire transfer was made using funds I'd quietly pulled together from a small business loan, a private investor, and every last penny of my savings. Barry shook my hand without really looking at me. "You're lucky to have a smart one on your team," he told Marcy, gesturing at me like I was invisible. I smiled and said, "I know," because in that moment, I wasn't just a girl with a checkbook. I was the new owner of Barry's life's work, and I was about to make sure it crumbled right in front of him. The sun was barely up when I pulled into the parking lot of Colton Climate Control, my company now. The sign still had Barry's faded logo on it, but that would be gone by next week. I stepped out of my car, holding a coffee in one hand and the keys in the other. It was quiet until I saw him. Barry was leaning against the front door like he owned the place. His arms were crossed, and he was grinning. I think he thought he was going to meet some rich old man or another faceless investor he could charm into letting him stick around. He hadn't figured it out yet. I walked right up to him. He blinked. "Wait, what are you doing here?" I smiled, calm and steady. "I'm the new owner, Barry." He laughed, but it sounded nervous. "No, seriously, where's the guy? You here to drop off paperwork or something?" I handed him the official purchase confirmation. The final transfer agreement, signed and sealed. My name was right there on the owner line. Savannah Blake. No more shell company, no alias. Just me. His eyes scanned the page, then scanned it again. His smirk disappeared like someone had pulled the plug. His hands started to shake a little. You tricked me," he stuttered. "No, Barry," I said quietly. "You underestimated me." He stepped back, his face going red. "You little snake. You lied. You can't do this." I looked him dead in the eyes. "You sold it willingly. Everything. The equipment, the building, the client list. And guess what? I already filed to change the business name. Your logo's coming off the website. The trucks, the uniforms. You don't exist here anymore. Barry's jaw twitched hard. He clenched his fists like he wanted to throw something. I stayed calm. You've got 24 hours to clear your things out, I said. After that, I'll have the locks changed. I built this company, he shouted. And I bought it, I replied. He stood there, breathing heavy like he was going to explode. But there was nothing he could do. No clause, no fine print. He'd signed everything. He was finished. I turned the key in the door and stepped inside. The building smelled like dust and stale coffee. But to me, it smelled like justice. Barry didn't follow. He just stood there, frozen, watching everything he stole from Grandma Ruth, and from me, fall into my hands. It was the first time I'd ever seen him speechless. And it was perfect. The first thing I did after taking over wasn't changing the logo or repainting the walls. It was calling Reggie Morales. He didn't recognize the number at first. Who is this? It's Savannah. I bought Colton Climate Control, I said. And I want you to come back. There was a pause, then a soft laugh. You serious? As a heart attack. He came in the next morning, eyes wide as he walked through the front door. Dang, he said, you really did it. I nodded. Welcome to Ruth's Heating and Air. He smiled when he saw the new logo, a warm golden sun with a soft outline of a woman's face in the center. My grandma. My heart. Reggie wasn't the only one I brought back. I reached out to every tech, every office worker, every crew member Barry had underpaid, yelled at, or pushed out. Some had left in tears. Some hadn't worked in months. I brought them all back, with raises, back pay, and something more important, respect. We turned the break room into something cozy. We got rid of Barry's strict no music rule. I hung up a framed photo of Grandma Ruth near the front desk with a quote underneath, "Keep folks warm, and be kind while you do it." That became our motto. A week later, Barry showed up again. He looked rough. Wrinkled shirt, hair a mess, eyes sunken. "I need work," he said, not meeting my gaze. I can help with scheduling or repairs, or..." I let him talk. Then I walked over to the desk, grabbed a small envelope, and handed it to him. "What's this?" he asked. "Your offer letter," I said. "Janitor. Part-time. $13.25 an hour. No benefits." His mouth opened, then closed. He looked like he wanted to scream, cry, or run. But he didn't. He signed. Every Tuesday and Thursday, Barry came in with a mop and a bucket. He cleaned the very floors he once walked like a king. Sometimes Reggie would greet him with a grin and say, "Morning, boss," just to twist the knife a little. I never gloated. But every time I saw him wiping down the windows of Ruth's Heating and Air, I thought of my grandma. I thought of how he took what she wanted me to have, and how I took it back, with interest. Barry came in like clockwork, Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 a.m. sharp. Same gray shirt, same worn-out sneakers, same empty look. He never spoke unless spoken to. He kept his head down, dragging the mop across the tile he once strolled like a king. No one laughed at him. No one mocked him. That would have been too easy, and honestly too kind. Because silence, that was worse. Every time he walked past the front counter, he'd glance up for just a second before looking away. Above the desk, framed in gold, was Grandma Ruth's photo. Her eyes soft, her smile gentle. Right underneath. Never let a man cheat you twice. He never asked who put it there. He didn't have to. The new hires ask sometime. "That Ruth in the logo?" I'd nod. She started this company in spirit. I'm just following through. Business boomed. Not overnight, but steady. Reggie trained the new crew, and customers started calling back. Word had spread that things were different now. Professional. Fair. Honest. We added a weekly lunch break where the team ate together, swapped stories, laughed. Sometimes I'd catch Barry eating alone in the back, chewing slowly, staring at the wall. No one invited him over. No one had to say a thing. One afternoon, I walked past the supply closet and heard sniffling. I paused. Barry was inside, sitting on an upside-down bucket, hands over his face, shoulders shaking. I didn't say a word. This wasn't about revenge anymore. Not really. It was about balance. He stole $25,000 from me. But worse, he stole Grandma's trust. Her name. Her intentions. And now he was paying it back. Slowly. In pride. One toilet. One trash can. One floor tile at a time. I didn't dock his pay. I didn't humiliate him. I made sure he had gloves and decent equipment. But I also made sure he clocked in like everyone else. No favors. No shortcuts. Every week, a little more of him faded. The swagger was gone. The excuses stopped. All that remained was silence and scrubbing. I'd watch him through the glass office door sometime. Not because I wanted to gloat, but because I wanted to see it. See what it looked like when justice didn't come from a courtroom or a lawyer. Just from someone who refused to stay broken. One day, as he finished mopping, he finally looked up at the photo of Grandma Ruth and just stood there. He didn't say anything. He didn't cry. He just stood, like maybe he finally understood what he'd done. And then, quietly, he picked up his bucket and walked out. The office still smelled like old cologne and stale coffee. I was cleaning out Barry's old desk, something I'd been putting off for weeks. There were piles of crumpled receipts, dusty HVAC manuals, and a weirdly large collection of mint gum packs. Typical. But then I noticed a key taped under the drawer. Curious, I scanned the room and found a small wall safe behind a faded certificate. The key fit perfectly. Inside, buried beneath some old invoices, was a red leather ledger, worn soft at the edges. I opened it. My stomach dropped. Page after page, Barry had recorded loans and expenses with initials that clearly stood for Grandma Ruth. Small amounts at first, then larger. Thousands taken out under the radar. Cash withdrawals, unexplained wire transfers, medical errands, estate simplification, holiday advance. It was all there. Years of theft written in his own handwriting. My hands shook as I flipped through the pages. He'd been draining her account slowly, methodically, even before she got sick. He didn't just steal what was left after she passed. He bled her dry while she was still alive. I took the ledger straight to Mom. She sat at the kitchen table, flipping through it in silence. Then, softly, she started crying. She kept whispering, "I knew it. I knew he was doing something." I didn't ask for details. It didn't matter anymore. What mattered was what we could do now. I called Jules Harmon, Grandma Ruth's old estate attorney. He'd retired a year ago, but agreed to meet for coffee after I explained what I had. He opened the ledger, adjusted his glasses, and his eyebrows shot up. This is enough to reopen the estate. He explained that if we could prove Barry manipulated Ruth during a time of cognitive decline or misused funds intended for beneficiaries, we had a strong civil case, especially with the handwriting, especially if we acted fast. Mom signed her name to the complaint without hesitation. Jules got the paperwork moving, quietly, legally, thoroughly. This wasn't about money anymore. It wasn't even about revenge. It was about truth, about making sure that Ruth's legacy didn't end with a lie. Barry had thought he buried everything with Grandma, but the past has a way of showing up, especially when you keep a paper trail in a red notebook. And now, the curtain was rising on his final act. The courtroom was cold, but I wasn't shaking. Barry sat across from me, hunched over in a wrinkled suit, eyes darting like a trapped animal. He had no defense, just excuses. But the judge wasn't buying any of it. The red ledger spoke louder than Barry ever could. When the verdict came, I didn't smile. I just listened. The judge awarded me the original $25,000 Grandma Ruth had promised in her will. On top of that, he tacked on damages and back interest, enough to make Barry flinch. His face crumpled when he realized what it meant. His accounts would be frozen, his last bits of property liquidated. The money he hoarded with such pride was gone. But when they handed me the check, I didn't feel joy. Not the kind people expect, anyway. It wasn't satisfying to beat him in court. It didn't undo the nights Grandma spent worrying about bills, or the tears in Mom's eyes when she realized her brother had betrayed her, too. So I made a decision. The next morning, I walked into the Haven Women's Shelter, the same one Grandma Ruth used to volunteer at years ago. I handed over the entire $25,000 in her name. No announcements, no speeches, just a quiet donation to help women rebuild their lives. Just like Grandma helped me rebuild mine. And that wasn't all. I created a community program under Ruth's Heating and Air, a free maintenance initiative for elderly residents in our county. Every month, we'd service homes that needed it most. No charge, no questions asked. Grandma always said, "You don't wait until someone asks for help. You just show up." Barry found out, of course. He tried to act like it didn't bother him. But word travels fast in small towns. People stopped calling him, stopped trusting him. What was left of his pride crumbled, just like his finances. He moved out of town a few weeks later. No goodbye. Just vanished. As for me, I didn't throw a party. Didn't post about it online. I just got back to work. Reggie and the team were already out on calls, and I had paperwork to file. Because in the end, it was never about the money. It was about Grandma. About honoring the woman who raised me to be kind, but never weak. Loving but never blind. I didn't need revenge. I just needed to make things right. And I think she'd be proud. The wind was soft that morning as I knelt at Grandma Ruth's grave. I brought a small, handmade plaque with me, carved out of oak, polished by hand. It read, "For everything you gave me, this legacy's yours." I placed it beneath her headstone, brushing away the leaves that had gathered overnight. The ground was cool, quiet, just like Grandma used to say the best victories were. "Don't scream," she'd whisper when I was younger, crying after some kid teased me. "Just win quietly. Let your life speak." Now it did. Behind me stood Ruth's Heating and Air, formerly Barry's pride and joy, now rebuilt from the foundation up. I turned to look at it. A sun was rising just above the rooftop, painting the brick walls gold. The new sign gleamed. On it, Grandma's silhouette beside a glowing sun. Hope. Warmth. Home. In the parking lot, Reggie tossed a football to one of the younger techs. Marcy was laughing near the service van, teasing him about his aim. Mom leaned against the railing with her coffee, her eyes finally clear, her smile soft and real, not forced like it used to be. She caught me looking and nodded. That was enough. As for Barry, no one had heard from him since the court case. Rumor had it he moved out of state, maybe changed his name. I didn't bother checking. It didn't matter anymore. He was part of the past now, buried deeper than Grandma's grave, buried in shame and silence. I walked back toward the building, past the welcome mat that said, "You belong here." Grandma came to mind again, her hands in flour, her voice humming old tunes from the radio, her stories about resilience and grace. She never yelled, never fought with fists. But she never let anyone walk over her either. She taught me to love hard, to stand taller when others tried to knock me down, and when they stole from you, to wait, watch, and win quietly. So I did. And now, every laugh in that parking lot, every family we help stay warm in winter, every technician we train, it all speaks louder than revenge ever could. This legacy isn't mine. It's hers. And I think wherever she is, she knows. What would you have done if you were in Savannah's place? Would you have taken revenge quietly like she did, or handled it different? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear them. And if you enjoy stories filled with justice and heart, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you're always in the loop.